Alright, so I've had some people PM me and ask me about how I tied above and below my knock. And first off, let me say that I'm no expert at all with tying. I kind of got into doing my own serving and tying here, this year. Really got into trying to tune my own bows and stuff. And to be honest with you, it's something I enjoy, and I think that it adds to the sport. And it makes you take pride in your setup. So. And I'm not going to talk about that anymore, but I want to show you what I've learned in my research and reading. I was trying to figure out. It's sometimes hard to find, what size threads to use and what to use for what. So I'll show you what I found. That one of the best products I've read to use for serving is BCY fibers and threads. And your standard serving size is 21 thousandths or .021. That's the size of what most serving is. I just happened to pick this green serving up. I liked it. It kind of went with my theme this year. Got a BCY serving jig here, and it's pretty simple and easy to use. But what's sometimes not simple to use and understand are the knots that are required to both start and finish a serving, or in this case to tie above and below a knocking point to help prevent D-loop pinch. Another product that I like to use here that you're going to need to do this is also BCY. This is a Nock and peep tie. The Nock and peep tie has a larger diameter thread than what your serving thread is. I think this is somewhere around 3 thousandths, .031, .032, somewhere in that neighborhood. And what it does is that having your knock and peep tying thread larger than your serving thread prevents the knock and peep tying thread from cutting into your serving thread or separating the serving so that it actually separates down and gets into the string. And we've all seen that happen when we're trying to move our D-loops up and down or twist them and stuff on the string. So you know what that can cause if it was smaller. Plus this gives it a little bit more surface to butt the knock up against. Another good product that I've used, I've been tying my own D-loops for a while, and I've used different materials and things. BCY made a pretty good D-loop material. I liked it. Came in the green color I liked, which was, like I said, my theme for this year. But I tell you something else I picked up was this Pine Ridge Archery D-loop material, and it is a little bit stiffer than the BCY, and I like how it stands out a little bit more. So if you want to give something a try, you can buy it in a 15-foot roll, and it's made by Pine Ridge Archery, and I tied a loop with it today, and I was impressed with how stiff it is. In fact, that's what I put on this on the HTR that I've been working on. So anyway, I'm gonna try to zoom in on here and show you how I tie this. I'm just gonna tie it on a little piece of my serving. Now I saw a couple of comments talking about that someone tied 8 above and 10 below, but I think what the key is that you have when you're doing your knock is that you simply have 2 less rounds up top than you do at the bottom, whether it's 8 up top, 10 at the bottom, or 4 up top, 6 at the bottom, which is what I'm using. But the point of this is that by having more ties below the knocking point than you do at the top of the knocking point, it forces your D-loop to sit down lower on your knocking. Makes your D-loop sit down lower on that thread, which when you draw the bow back will actually put down tension on the arrow just a hair and cause the arrow to ride down on the rest, and that'll help you when you're got those steep angled shots down towards the ground. When you're shooting close to your tree, which most of the time hunting, most of my shots are somewhere around 10 to 15 yards, so I shoot down a lot, and that's going to help keep that arrow on the rest. At least that's what I've read, and this is a whole new thing that I'm trying out. I've never tied above and below my knocking point before. I've always just had the D-loop on there, and it's worked good in the past. But I'm always eager to try something new, and this was getting, you know, a lot of things that I've read said this was the way to go. So okay, let me move the camera here and show you how I've so I got my camera set up here. I hope that y'all can see what I'm doing. First thing you'll do is you just want to cut you a piece of twine or a piece of loop tying material, and the first thing that I do is I just make a loop just like that, and that's what I'm going to tie on my above my nock and below my nock. So just take a loop here. I just kind of hold it in place. You can let your tag end stick out down here, and this will be the one that I'm gonna do a 6 tie. So there's 1 time around, 2 times around, and there is 3 turns around the string right there. Alright, and once you have the 3 times around there, you see you got that little loop sticking up at the top. All you really want to do there is just, you don't want to pull this too tight in the beginning or you'll lose everything. So what you want to do is just pull that loop until it tucks back up underneath there right as it stops. And I don't go very tight with it. That's as far as I take it. And I'll just double that back over. And I kind of hold it in spot. Sometimes I feel like I need to have more fingers. Then I just take a loop down just like that. And now I'm going to serve back over top the same direction that I was going. And I'm going to go the same amount of turns that I did on the bottom. So there's 1, 2. And these don't have to be very tight. In fact, I wouldn't make them tight at all, or you won't be able to move this knot after you get done. So after you go around 3 times, just want to take and lay that string back over top. That's going to be your new tag or pull in. And then this is pretty cool because this is just going to unwind what we did. So I'm going to come back around at 1, 2, and 3 turns. And you'll notice that I completely now have unwound what I tied on the upper side. And now we're just going to take our extra loop end here and we're going to pull this down through, and that pulls it knot tight. Now at this point in time you can see that you've got your knots in here, but it's not very tight, which is okay, because at this point in time you can slide it and you can move it up or down the string, you know, based on your nock, and while it's still loose. What you're going to have is you're going to have these 2 ends here, and this is how you're going to tighten this up. So what I do here is you take your pliers and pull this in, take and pull it tight, and that tightens it up real nice. And you could take your fingers and push it in just like that, and that's what this is what they call end serving. And then all I do is I take my scissors and I cut it off like that. Leave about 1/8 of an inch is all you need, because what you're going to do there is just like when you're doing your D loop. You're going to create a little mushroom end on this thing just by melting it. So here I'm going to melt it, and just take your finger and kind of push the melt into the string. Same way on this side, and kind of turn these tail ends to the side so you're not burning up towards your serving. You definitely don't want to go into your serving. And that's it. I mean, you know, it's that simple. There's a 6 tie. Of course, that would be on the bottom side of your nock. So your nock would sit right there. And you know, if you look over here at this D loop, what I generally do is I take and I make a mark. Find something to point with. Here we go. I generally set my loop up with my burger hole, and I take and I put a little mark right here to mark my center spot. That tells me where I got to put my nock. And then when I tie this, I'll snap the nock on just like I did right here, and then I'll tie below it, and I'll slide this knot up till it's within about 1 thread of the Nock, and then I'll leave my Nock in place. Just put a Nock there in place, and then I'll take, and I don't know if I have enough. This is a pretty short piece of string, but I'll try to tie it anyway. I'll take now and tie above it, and this is your smaller one, which I use 4 knots on the top, which the reason some people probably use 6 and 8 is because it's easier to tie a 6 than it is to tie a 4, because I'm only going to get 2 rounds on the bottom, and that's not a lot to hold. So make 2 rounds with it, just like this, and then pull your loop through like that. Bring it tagging around, and you can use a pair of hemostats here. It'd be easier probably, but it just comes in around twice. One, I could have used a bigger piece of string here for showing this, but waste not, want not, right? Alright, so there's my tail end. Lay it back across the string, and then take my serving here and tie it 1, 2 times there, and then pull that tight. Before you do though, you could take and you could slide this up against your Nock just like that. And I'm not going to melt this one in place because I don't want to it's going to be hard enough to get this off my freshly served string, but this is exactly how you do it. And then you just follow your D loop up above and below this knot and pull them tight. And something that I've noticed, guys, when you're tying your D loops, I'm sure most everybody does this, but just make sure you take your D loop and your knot will be on one side of the string and the other side of the string. What that does is it keeps from torquing your string left and right. And then another thing I noticed is that, if you've already got your peep sight set, this is a good opportunity to look at which direction your peep is turned. And when you set your D loop, I got this cool set of pliers here from which are Easton pliers, and it's got a D loop set on it. But when you set your D loop, if you'll make sure that you have your peep in line with the loop, you can actually set this thing tight right now, and that way your peep stays in the right direction when you draw, and then you don't have that serving separation by rotating this D loop left and right, which it will separate your serving. This is a good time to set it for your peep rotation if you got it in. So well, that's how I do it, and it works just like in serving on the center of your. It works like doing your in servings for the center of your center serving or your in string serving. It's just how you finish off a serving knot. So use the same thing here, and it's tight, and it's hard to cut off there. So hey, I hope that answers some of y'all's questions, and I hope my video wasn't too bad. Alright, see you.